From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 31st. And we're about to head into the month of February. And, of course, then we have March. And then we'll just be out of this winter mode here. But aside from that one big storm last week, and here it is. This is what we were talking about last week, storm for the history books. We haven't had much opportunity. Now, we weren't expecting much opportunity this winter. If you watch the if you looked at the winter outlook, we had very few chances, but when they hit, they had a chance to be big. So far, so good. We do have the opportunity for some other big ones coming up down the future, and we'll see. We have a lot of time left. I know we're down to about realistically 6 weeks. I know winter goes through. You can get snow late March and into April in some places, but I think realistically for most places, you're looking at through about the middle of March. And then that's calls for about 6 more weeks of winter here. And speaking of that, going to a long-range forecast table, this was updated on Friday night. Mike DeFino was the one who updates the table every week here on the long range. 6 more weeks of winter is being predicted with or without the groundhog's approval, which that's his comedian part coming out there. But 6 more weeks of winter we are projecting here with or without the groundhog's approval from February 2nd onward. We do have a couple storm signals coming up, but before that, temperatures are going to be above average. The 31st, which is today, through Wednesday, which is February 3rd, and then we do think that cold front comes through here. Now, it will be a fast-moving cold front, so there you might have some gusty winds with it, maybe a thunderstorm or two embedded along that line. I don't think we're looking at severe weather, but it could be some very gusty winds if we can get some of that, some of the winds in the mid-levels to mix down to the surface in any heavy rain. But really does not look overly impressive to me. But temperatures will definitely be very warm ahead of it. I'll show you that in a second here. And then we have another snow signal from the 5th to the 7th, and another one 8th to 10th. This could actually be broken into 3 here if we really wanted to be technical, because the models are showing a couple different signals in there, depending on which model you look at. Some have it, some don't. Really liking this last signal more than as the best of all of them here, but we'll get into that here. Also, temperatures for from the 4th to the 15th, after that cold front moves through, we're looking at below average for a very long time, and then below average for February is the month as a whole, and above normal snowfall, because I do think we're going to have a very active southern jet continuing. Here's that warm air we're talking about here through Wednesday. Now, this is an anomaly, so this is looking at departures from normal. This is not 90s and 100s or something, and you're seeing this here. Wow, it's really warm. Well, this is just a departure from normal. We're going to have temperatures in the mid-50s here, where they're supposed to be in the mid-30s in these areas here, and then further south here will probably be in the 60s, or hitting 60 or lower 60s down by Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware. Low to mid-50s up here in northern areas. But it's either way, it's going to be very warm compared to what it's supposed to be for this time of year. So that's where you're seeing the anomalies here, showing very warm before this frontal boundary moves through. Here's your frontal boundary back here, area low pressure moving up to the north. Once this cold front moves through, we'll be going back to colder weather. Here's that cold front here looking at the surface map, and here's the area low pressure move up the Great Lakes. Cold front situated right here, and here's our embedded heavier rain possible along that front, or maybe some thunderstorms, gusty thunderstorms. Again, this is going to be a fast-moving thing. This looks like a big deal here, but it's about a 2 or 3 hour event here, not a big deal. So it's not going to linger the entire day here on Wednesday. I think the cold front's in and out, and then we start clearing behind it. There's also some models indicating, here's that first threat, that there's going to be low pressure forming along that front. The front, once it gets offshore, doesn't make it too far offshore, and then at least for the coastal areas, you might have to worry about a period of light snow. Now, the GFS is the only one that's really aggressive with this, but the models have indicated some systems out here that are just close enough that you have to watch for grazes along the coastal areas here. So we'll keep an eye on it for that. It will definitely be cold enough by this. This is looking at Friday morning. It'll definitely be cold enough to support that if it does in fact occur. But I'm really not liking the ideas or prospects of that. Usually it's hard to determine where along the frontal boundary, like where that front's going to stall, first of all. Second of all, where that low pressure is going to form along that boundary, and does it get close enough to the coast to bring some light snow? We'll see. We'll certainly follow it, but not really overly impressed with that notion. What we are impressed with is the stratosphere. We have not one but two waves back to back. Here's the first one. It's occurring now. Now this has a little bit of a lag time, so it has a 2 to 3 week lag time to propagate down to the surface. So we have one that's ongoing right now, and instead of having the polar vortex, which is sitting over here, which instead of having over the pole, if it's over the pole, then that's in a bad place for us. We're going to be warm here in the United States if that is the case. But you have this stratospheric warming working against it. You have warming over the polar regions. If you have that, it displaces the polar vortex enough to give us some colder air move into the United States. Now, 5 days from now, it attempts to move back toward the polar regions here. This is up at 10 millibars. This is way up in the atmosphere, up in the stratosphere. And the warming is starting to rebuild here over Asia. They're just north of Asia here, but it's starting to work against it. So it starts to retreat in 5 days, and in 10 days, we get a more impressive warming event. And this one here, I think, is what is going to dislodge it. May even help to split. You can see clearly cross-polar flow here coming into the United States here between the two here. So this warming event here, this is stratospheric warming working against the polar vortex. The polar vortex is displaced way away from the pole, allowing for that cross-polar flow to help down into the United States. This will set up a high latitude block in this case. This is a very good signal here, but again, this is a 10-day out one, and it does have a lag time getting here. This is the one that could set us up going right into March, with the high latitude blocking and the colder regime. Here is that stratosphere high latitude block on paper here, not one but two. And again, here's the first flux. This is going on right now, and here's the second one, which is more impressive. So, we definitely have time to look at this. Hopefully the models are onto something with this idea. They have been right with the first one, so, of course, we had the one back in the second week of January. That worked out well for the second half of January. But, we got a couple back-to-back here that are going to help displace that polar vortex and get us back into winter mode here again. Now, there's some conflicting signals here because the Madden-Julian Oscillation is going into Phase 4 and Phase 5. And this is supported by the SOI rise. So we do see the signs of this actually occurring, even though it's technically still in the circle of death, which would mean it would have no effect on our pattern. And by the way, our big blizzard that we had last year occurred while the MJO was in the circle of death, so it does not necessarily mean this is a bad thing. You can get some big storms when the Madden-Julian Oscillation has no effect on the pattern, and we just had dateline convection running the pattern, which gave us kind of like a Phase 8 signal for that storm. So anyway, going into Phase 4, Phase 5, if you look at this, these are our warm phases typically in January, February, March. You look at this going, uh-oh, this is warm. This is warm too. Phase 4, Phase 5. So are we really going to be as cold as the models are indicating? I think we are, and I think the reason is a combination of stuff here. If you look at Phase 4, Phase 5, let me get the right image here. In an El Nino year, it's a little bit different. Oh, I know why it's not working. There we go. If you get an El Nino year, it's a little bit different. So if you look at this here, the Phase 4, Phase 5 is looking at it's kind of like a blanket statement, looking at all and so positive and negative, positive, negative, and neutral, and averaging them together. And this year, Phase 4, Phase 5 MJO could lead to, it just means that the central United States is going to be the core of the cold. The core of the cold is going to be out here in the central part of the United States, but we still get cold bleeding eastward. At least for our interior, we're below normal. This is below normal here. This is a temperature anomaly for 88 or 50 millibars. So, personally, let them have the minus 20 degree Fahrenheit readings up here in Minnesota, North Dakota, Iowa, South Dakota, Wisconsin. Okay, let them have that. I don't want that. All right, I just want enough cold here to support snow, so that we have our snow lovers here are taken care of. Now, along the coast here, not as impressive of a pattern southeast of 95 going forward. I'll tell you that right now. I'll be completely honest with you. Your best chance for snows now going forward through the upcoming pattern here are going to be in the interior. So places like Northeast PA that have gotten the shaft so far and have complained, and I understand, I hear your complaints. You haven't got any snow because you really missed out on the last blizzard. Scranton got not even 2 inches, and they see Allentown, which is not even that far away from Scranton, get 32. I mean, I can see your frustration. But you're way behind the snowfall up here in northeastern PA. I do think you're going to make up for lost time in a hurry as we get into the months of May, February, March. And the coastal areas might not be doing as well. I think you had your time. You already reached our winter outlook projections down here in most areas in southern New Jersey, Delaware. So you've already gotten yours. Not saying you can't get more, but it's going to be favored in the areas northwest of I-95 going forward. So a more typical setup here. Now, the reason why it's doing this, the reason why you normally in a phase 4, phase 5, you have the core of the cold centered out here, so that gives you a ridge in the east. We're not getting a ridge in the east, and the reason is, I think this goes back to the stratospheric warming again. As long as you have a cross-polar flow going in here and a high latitude blocking here, that will negate the effects of what a typical phase 4 and phase 5 is. And even in phase 4, phase 5, again, if you're in a positive ENSO year, this doesn't look good or bad. All right, it's not this warm. It's kind of neutral. So if you look at a positive ENSO, that's an El Nino year. You just have the core. It just means the core of the cold is going to be to our west. And normally in a La Nina year, that would not bleed east, and you'd have a ridge here like this. But that's not happening this year because you have that cross-polar flow, and a cross-polar flow is going to allow for some high-latitude blocking. And here's the high-latitude blocking, what I'm talking about. You get a cross-polar flow like that across the poles, come right down over the central and eastern part of the United States, and that offsets the MJO. So yes, we are going to MJO phase 4 or 5, but I don't think it's running the pattern. So we'll see. We'll see. I still think I like the idea of a very cold February. Very active February, and what ends up happening is when you have that phase 4, phase 5 setup like this, any of these storms, you get enough cold in here for cold and snow right up here, okay? But what ends up happening is you get storms rounding the base of the trough here in the southern jet, coming up the coast like this, and then of course the interior would benefit better for that. But just enough cold around. A cold air source isn't far away to be able, especially if a big storm comes up the coast, to be able to draw in that cold air, even if temperatures are marginal to start. Okay, so I do think we're going to have plenty of opportunities from big storms. We saw the one threat here on February 5th, which is this one we'll keep an eye on for just coastal areas. That's number one. Number two, European model indicating that we're going to have a storm here around the 8th. It's going to be really close. The GFS does not agree. It's a little more progressive with it. I agree with the GFS that this is going to be a progressive system, and it's going to be a northern stream dominated system here. So this one will probably be either further offshore or develop late, like the GFS shows, because the pattern is very progressive west to east. So I don't think this develops this close to the coast here, but if it does, we could get a snow event. To keep an eye on this if it trends west here. But I do think, regardless, this is Sunday night into Monday. Regardless, you're going to have some snow showers moving through the area with that clipper type system moving off to our north. So whether this is close enough or not, you're still going to get some snow showers, I think, Sunday night, Monday. This is, of course, the night day after Super Bowl. And then you have the next big threat. This is the one I like the best. Again, this is when your cross-polar flow is set up here. You get this big kind of bowl here in the east of all the cold air coming in, cross-polar flow, and then you have system after system rounding the base of the trough and trying to come up the coast here, and you can get some big snows. This is looking at GFS from last night. So your European model also has a signal in here. It's uncertain, though, the extent of how far the cold air dives in. If it dives in a little bit less here, you could have a system cutting a little bit close to inland here instead of being further east. So we'll have to watch that. Of course, again, it wouldn't help the coast, but it might help areas northwest I-95, especially northeast PA, that has not gotten into much of the action right now. So we have a couple things to follow here. This is the one I like the best. This is right around the 10th. All right, that's our best signal, I think. We do have those other two other ones we have to keep an eye on in the meantime. And, of course, you can follow these all on our EPAWA Custom Models page. Just click in the top right, on the navigation bar, top right of this page, or any of our pages here. The navigation bar says, right here says Weather Models. You can click on that. We'll give you the NAM, GFS, and Canadian models, and the ensembles, and give you total snowfall and everything else you're looking for as part of that package. This is our own EPAWA models we have for this specific area you can use. You can choose the EPAWA coverage area plots to zoom into our area and get actual amounts expected for your region. And if we are getting active in the next 10 days here, I do think we're going to be using this a lot more, so we might want to check that out. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for January 31st, 2016. I'll see you again next week.